First contact and abduction. The night sky blazed with unfamiliar constellations as Sarah Chen peered through her telescope. At 17, she was already making a name for herself in amateur astronomy circles. Tonight, she hoped to catch a glimpse of the newly discovered exoplanet in the Ophiuchus constellation. "Come on, where are you?" she muttered, adjusting the focus. A flicker of movement caught her eye, but it wasn't the planet she sought. A pulsing light streaked across her field of view, growing larger by the second. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This was no meteor or satellite. The object slowed as it entered the atmosphere, its erratic movements defying the laws of physics. Heart pounding, she fumbled for her phone to record the impossible sight. Before she could hit record, a blinding flash illuminated the hilltop where she stood. Sarah threw up her hands to shield her eyes, stumbling backwards. When the light faded, she found herself face to face with something straight out of her wildest sci-fi dreams or nightmares. Towering nearly 3 meters tall, the being before her had grayish skin that seemed to shimmer and shift. Multiple limbs sprouted from its torso, each ending in what looked like both claws and tentacles. But it was the eyes that captivated Sarah, 3 glowing orbs that pulsed with an otherworldly intelligence. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The alien raised one of its limbs, and Sarah felt herself lifted off the ground by an invisible force. As darkness closed in around her, her last thought was of her parents, sleeping peacefully in their home just down the hill. Would they ever know what happened to her? Thousands of miles away, in a remote Siberian research station, Dr. Alexei Volkov hunched over his computer, analyzing strange energy readings that had been detected in the upper atmosphere. The 45-year-old astrophysicist had spent his career searching for signs of extraterrestrial life. Now it seemed that life might have found Earth first. A series of rapid beeps from his console snapped Alexei out of his thoughts. The energy signature was back, and it was headed straight for the research station. He stood up so quickly his chair toppled over, racing to the window just in time to see a brilliant light descending from the clouds. Alexei's mind reeled as he tried to process what he was seeing. The craft, if that's what it was, defied description. It seemed to shift and change shape as it moved, as if it wasn't fully anchored in 3-dimensional space. He grabbed for the station's emergency radio, but before he could send out an alert, the wall in front of him simply dissolved. Alexei found himself staring into a cavernous space that logic told him couldn't possibly fit inside the craft he'd seen. Alien figures moved in the shadows, their forms blurring and shifting in ways that made his eyes water. One stepped forward, its 3 eyes fixed on Alexei with an unnerving intensity. He felt a presence brush against his mind, alien thoughts and concepts flooding his consciousness. In that moment, he understood that everything humanity thought they knew about the universe was about to change. As the aliens led him into their craft, Alexei's scientific curiosity warred with primal terror. Whatever was about to happen, he knew Earth would never be the same. Aboard the massive alien mothership hanging in high orbit around Earth, Sarah Chen slowly regained consciousness. Her head throbbed as she tried to make sense of her surroundings. The chamber she found herself in was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Walls that seemed alive with pulsing energy, strange symbols floating in midair. "Hello," she called out, her voice shaky. "Is anyone there?" "Ah, you're awake." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once, making Sarah jump. A figure shimmered into existence before her, humanoid in shape, but clearly not human. Its skin was a swerving pattern of blues and greens, and its eyes were silver pools that seemed to look right through her. "W, who are you?" Sarah managed to ask. "Where am I?" The alien's mouth didn't move, but Sarah heard its response clearly in her mind. "I am Zarketh, emissary of the Galactic Council. You are aboard our ship, young one. We have much to discuss." Before Sarah could respond, a door she hadn't noticed before slid open. 2 more aliens entered, escorting a disheveled-looking man with graying hair and a beard. His eyes widened when he saw Sarah. Another human, he explained in heavily accented English. Are you all right? Sarah nodded, relieved to see a fellow human. I'm Sarah. Who are you? Dr. Alexei Volkov. I was taken from my research station in Siberia. He turned to Zarketh, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. Why have you brought us here? What do you want with Earth? Zarketh's silver eyes seemed to darken. We have been observing your species for many of your centuries. You have great potential, but also great capacity for destruction. The Galactic Council has decided it is time to determine humanity's fate. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. What do you mean, humanity's fate? Your species stands at a crossroads, Zarketh explained. You are on the verge of faster-than-light travel, which will allow you to spread throughout the galaxy. But your violent tendencies and disregard for your own planet's ecosystem concern us greatly. Alexei stepped forward, his voice urgent. Surely you can see that humans are capable of great things as well. Our art, our music, our scientific discoveries. Zarketh held up a hand, silencing him. We are aware of humanity's achievements. That is why we have not simply removed your species from the equation. Instead, you will be given a chance to prove your worth. Sarah's heart raced. What kind of chance? You and Dr. Volkov will represent your species in a series of trials, Zarketh said. If you succeed, humanity will be welcomed into the galactic community, with all the knowledge and benefits it entails. If you fail, the alien's voice trailed off ominously. And if we refuse to participate, Alexei asked, his tone defiant. Zarketh's form seemed to ripple, a clear sign of agitation. Then the Council will have no choice but to deem humanity too great a risk. Your civilization will be contained, isolated from the rest of the galaxy for your own protection, and ours. Sarah and Alexei exchanged worried glances. The stakes couldn't be higher. The fate of their entire species rested on their shoulders. When do these trials begin? Sarah asked, trying to keep the tremor out of her voice. Immediately, Zarketh replied. Follow me. As they were led through the twisting corridors of the alien ship, Sarah's mind raced. How could she, a high school student, possibly be expected to represent all of humanity? She glanced at Alexei, hoping his scientific knowledge would give them an edge. They entered a vast chamber that seemed to stretch endlessly in all directions. In the center stood a group of aliens, each different from the last. Some were vaguely humanoid, while others defied description. All turned to stare at the two humans as they approached. One alien, tall and regal with shimmering golden skin, stepped forward. I am Axelathax, head of the Galactic Council. Humans, you stand before us to prove your species' worth. Are you prepared to face the trials that will determine your fate? Sarah swallowed hard, then straightened her shoulders. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew giving up wasn't an option. The entire human race was counting on them. We're ready, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. Beside her, Alexei nodded grimly. Axelathax's multifaceted eyes seemed to bore into them. Then let the trials begin. As the aliens closed in around them, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a journey that would push humanity to its very limits. Whatever happened next would change the course of human history forever. The Quantum Labyrinth. Sarah and Alexei stood at the entrance of what appeared to be an impossibly vast maze. Its walls shimmered with an iridescent energy, constantly shifting and changing before their eyes. Axelathax's voice echoed around them, explaining the first trial. Welcome to the Quantum Labyrinth, the alien leader intoned. This construct exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Your task is to navigate it and reach the center within one planetary rotation of your homeworld. Alexei's eyes widened. Fascinating. A physical representation of quantum superposition. Sarah, however, focused on the practical. But how do we navigate something that's constantly changing? Axelathax's multifaceted eyes gleamed. That, humans, is for you to determine. Your trial begins now. As they stepped into the labyrinth, Sarah felt a strange tingling sensation throughout her body. The walls around them pulsed with equations and symbols that seemed to dance in the air. "Dr. Volkov," Sarah said, her voice tight with anxiety, "any ideas?" The astrophysicist ran his hand through his disheveled hair. "In quantum mechanics, the act of observation can affect the outcome of an experiment. Perhaps," he trailed off, squinting at a particular set of symbols. Suddenly, the pathway ahead of them split into 3 identical corridors. Sarah groaned in frustration, but Alexei's eyes lit up. "Sarah, look at those symbols. They're not just decoration, they're wave functions," he pointed excitedly. "If we can decode them, we might be able to predict how the maze will shift." As they delved deeper into the labyrinth, Sarah and Alexei formed an unlikely but effective team. The teenagers' quick thinking and pattern recognition complemented the scientists' deep understanding of quantum theory. They learned to read the maze, anticipating its changes and making split-second decisions. Hours passed and fatigue began to set in. Just as Sarah felt ready to collapse, they rounded a corner and found themselves facing a shimmering barrier of pure energy. Beyond it, they could see what had to be the center of the maze. "We made it," Sarah exclaimed, reaching out to touch the barrier. Her hand passed through it as if it weren't there. Alexei, however, hesitated. "Wait, this seems too easy." As if on cue, a deep rumbling shook the labyrinth. The barrier began to flicker and distort, and through it, they could see monstrous shapes taking form in the center chamber. "Quantum Guardians," Alexei breathed. "The final test." Sarah squared her shoulders. "Then let's face it together." They stepped through the barrier, ready to confront whatever challenge awaited them. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, but in that moment, Sarah felt a surge of confidence. Together, they had mastered the impossible maze. Whatever came next, they would face it with the same determination and ingenuity. As they approached the center, the monstrous shapes coalesced into towering beings of pure energy. Their forms constantly shifted, making it impossible to focus on any one feature. Sarah felt a pressure building in her mind, as if the very presence of these entities was too much for her human consciousness to process. Alexei stumbled, clutching his head. "It's like trying to comprehend infinity," he gasped. Sarah reached out to steady him, and as their hands touched, something extraordinary happened. The pressure in her mind eased, replaced by a sudden clarity. She could see the quantum guardians for what they truly were, not monsters, but intricate patterns of energy and information. "Dr. Volkov," she said urgently, "I think I understand. These guardians, they're like the maze itself. They exist in multiple states at once. We need to synchronize with them somehow." Alexei's eyes widened in realization. Of course, quantum entanglement on a macro scale, but how do we? Before he could finish, one of the guardians lunged forward, its form stretching and distorting in impossible ways. Sarah acted on instinct, pulling Alexei into a spin that perfectly mirrored the guardian's movement. As they moved, she felt a strange resonance building between them and the energy beings. "Keep moving," she shouted. "Match their patterns." What followed was a dance unlike anything in human experience. Sarah and Alexei moved in perfect synchronization, their movements becoming one with the quantum flux around them. As they danced, the guardians' forms began to stabilize, becoming less chaotic and more harmonious. Alexei laughed in sheer exhilaration. "It's working. We're aligning our quantum states with theirs." With a final graceful movement, Sarah and Alexei came to a stop in the very center of the chamber. The guardians surrounded them, no longer monstrous but breathtakingly beautiful in their complexity. A sense of profound connection washed over the humans. In that moment, they felt linked not just to each other, but to the very fabric of the universe itself. A slow clap echoed through the chamber. Axilothax materialized before them, his golden skin shimmering with approval. "Impressive," the alien leader said. "You have not only navigated the labyrinth, but demonstrated an intuitive grasp of quantum harmonics. Few species have ever achieved such synchronization with the Guardians. Sarah and Alexei exchanged triumphant grins, but their celebration was short-lived. Axelathak's expression grew serious. You have passed the first trial of humans, but greater challenges lie ahead. The next test will push you to your physical and mental limits. Are you prepared to continue? Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the residual energy of their quantum dance still tingling through her body. She met Alexei's gaze, seeing her own determination reflected in his eyes. "We're ready," they said in unison. As the quantum realm faded around them, replaced by a new and even more daunting environment, Sarah couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. They had accomplished the impossible once. With human ingenuity and the growing bond between them, perhaps they truly could secure humanity's place among the stars. Little did they know, their greatest test was yet to come, one that would challenge not just their abilities, but the very core of what it meant to be human. The empathy engine. As the shimmering quantum realm faded away, Sarah and Alexei found themselves in a vast, sterile chamber. The walls pulsed with a soft bioluminescent glow, and in the center stood a massive, organic-looking machine. Its surface writhed with tendrils and pulsing veins, looking more alive than mechanical. Axelathak's voice echoed through the room. "Welcome to the empathy engine. This trial will test not your physical or intellectual prowess, but the very essence of what you claim makes humanity special, your capacity for compassion and understanding." Sarah stepped closer to the machine, fascinated despite her apprehension. "How does it work?" "The empathy engine will connect your minds to those of various sentient beings across the galaxy," Axelathak explained. "You must experience their lives, feel their joys and sufferings, and make choices that affect their fate. Your decisions will determine whether humanity is worthy of joining the galactic community." Alexei frowned. "But how can we make decisions for species we know nothing about?" "That is precisely the point, Dr. Volkov," Axelathak replied. "True empathy transcends cultural and even biological boundaries. Now, prepare yourselves. The trial begins." Before they could protest further, tendrils shot out from the machine, attaching themselves to Sarah and Alexei's temples. The world around them dissolved into a kaleidoscope of alien sensations. Sarah found herself inhabiting the body of a crystalline being on a world of perpetual twilight. She could feel the solar winds brushing against her faceted surface, absorbing nutrients directly from the planet's magnetic field. A sense of deep contentment filled her. Suddenly, she detected a disturbance. Another of her kind approached, its crystalline structure vibrating with distress. Through some innate sense, Sarah understood that this being was suffering from a rare form of crystal decay that would eventually shatter its consciousness. She faced a choice. She could sacrifice a portion of her own healthy structure to heal the stranger, potentially compromising her own longevity, or she could preserve herself and let nature take its course. Meanwhile, Alexei experienced life as a gaseous collective intelligence drifting through the upper atmosphere of a gas giant. He was simultaneously an individual and part of a vast, shared consciousness. The exhilaration of this existence was overwhelming. A powerful storm was brewing in the planet's lower atmosphere, threatening a fledgling colony of silicon-based life forms. The collective had the power to divert the storm, but doing so would disrupt their own carefully maintained atmospheric patterns, potentially fragmenting their shared consciousness. As Sarah and Alexei grappled with these alien dilemmas, they found themselves cycling through dozens of different life forms and scenarios. They experienced the joy of a hive mind, achieving perfect unity, the loneliness of being the last of an ancient species, and the wonder of a newborn eye, achieving self-awareness. With each scenario, the choices became more complex, the consequences more far-reaching. They weren't just deciding the fates of individuals, but of entire civilizations. The weight of this responsibility was staggering. Hours passed, though time seemed meaningless within the empathy engine. Sarah and Alexei's minds were pushed to their limits, stretched across the vast tapestry of galactic life. Just when they thought they couldn't take any more, the connections severed, and they found themselves back in the chamber, gasping and disoriented. Axilophax materialized before them, his golden skin pulsing with an unreadable energy. You have completed the trial of the empathy engine. Your choices were unexpected. Sarah struggled to find her voice, her mind still reeling from the myriad experiences. Did we pass? The alien leader's multifaceted eyes seemed to peer into their very souls. You demonstrated great compassion, often at personal cost. Yet you also made difficult choices, allowing suffering when you believed it would lead to greater growth or understanding. It was most intriguing. Alexei stepped forward, his legs shaky but his voice firm. We did our best to understand each situation, to feel what those beings felt. Isn't that what true empathy is about? Not just blind kindness, but genuine understanding. Axilophax was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Your perspective is unique among the species we have tested. Most either choose selfish preservation or self-sacrificing altruism. Few have demonstrated such nuance. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. Then we passed. You have survived the trial, Axilophax said carefully. But the true test is yet to come. The empathy engine has done more than challenge you. It has fundamentally altered your neural patterns. You are now connected not just to each other, but to a fraction of the collective consciousness of the galaxy. As if on cue, Sarah gasped as a flood of alien thoughts and feelings washed over her. She could sense Alexei's shock and awe as he experienced the same thing. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly overwhelming. Axilophax's voice seemed to come from a great distance. Your final trial will be to integrate this new awareness, to prove that humanity can transcend its isolated existence and truly join the galactic community. But be warned, many minds have been lost to the vastness of cosmic consciousness. As the alien leader faded from view, Sarah reached out and grasped Alexei's hand. They stood together, their minds reeling as they tried to comprehend the enormity of what they now faced. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, but the challenge before them was greater than they could have ever imagined. In that moment, as the boundaries between their individual selves and the cosmic whole began to blur, Sarah and Alexei knew that whatever came next would redefine what it meant to be human. The greatest trial of all was about to begin. The cosmic crucible. Sarah and Alexei floated in a void of swirling cosmic energy, their physical forms left behind in the alien ship. Their consciousnesses, expanded by the empathy engine, now drifted in a sea of galactic thoughts and emotions. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly disorienting. Dr. Volkov. Sarah called out, her voice echoing strangely in the mindscape. Are you there? I'm here, Sarah. Alexei's thoughts resonated back. But I'm also everywhere. It's incredible. Their wonder was short-lived as the full weight of the cosmic consciousness crashed over them. Billions of alien minds, each with its own hopes, fears, and experiences, threatened to drown out their individual selves. Sarah felt her identity slipping away, dissolving into the vast ocean of thought. Hold on. Alexei's mental voice cut through the chaos. We can't lose ourselves. Focus on what makes us human. Sarah latched onto the thought, desperately clinging to memories of Earth. The smell of her mother's cooking, the feel of grass between her toes, the sound of laughter with friends. Slowly, she felt her sense of self solidifying. As they stabilized, a new presence made itself known. Axilophax's consciousness enveloped them, his thoughts reverberating through the cosmic expanse. You have entered the cosmic crucible, the alien leader's mind voice boomed. Here, you will face the ultimate test of your species' worthiness. You must navigate the collective consciousness of the galaxy, solve conflicts between civilizations, and help guide the cosmic community towards harmony, all while maintaining your human identity. But how? Sarah asked, overwhelmed by the enormity of the task. That is for you to discover, Axilophax replied. The trial begins now. Suddenly, Sarah and Alexei found themselves thrust into a raging psychic maelstrom. They were bombarded with the thoughts and emotions of countless alien races, many locked in ancient conflicts or facing extinction-level crises. They encountered a hive-mind species torn apart by civil war, their collective consciousness fracturing. Sarah and Alexei dove into the conflict, using their newfound empathy to understand both sides and guide them towards reconciliation. Next, they faced a civilization on the brink of ecological collapse, their planet dying beneath them. Alexei's scientific knowledge, combined with Sarah's creative problem-solving, helped them devise a solution that would save both the planet and its inhabitants. As they moved from crisis to crisis, Sarah and Alexei began to work in perfect synchronization. Their minds, linked by their shared human experience and expanded by cosmic awareness, became a powerful force for change in the galaxy. But with each problem solved, each conflict resolved, they felt their human identities slipping further away. The vast knowledge and experience of the cosmos was intoxicating, threatening to subsume their individual selves entirely. "We're losing ourselves," Sarah realized, her thoughts becoming increasingly alien. "If we continue like this, there won't be anything human left to return to Earth." Alexei's consciousness brushed against hers, a mix of concern and determination. "You're right, but we can't give up. There must be a way to balance our humanity with this cosmic awareness." As if in response to their dilemma, they found themselves drawn to a distant corner of the galaxy. Here, they encountered something unexpected, a fledgling spacefaring race, taking its first tentative steps into the cosmic community. With a jolt, Sarah and Alexei realized this young species reminded them of humanity. They were filled with wonder, curiosity, and a burning desire to explore the unknown. But they were also afraid, unsure of their place in the vast cosmic tapestry. In that moment, Sarah had an epiphany. "Dr. Volkov, I think I understand. Our humanity isn't a weakness to be overcome, it's our greatest strength." Alexei's mind lit up with understanding. Of course, our limited perspective, our struggle to understand the cosmos, that's what drives us to explore, to empathize, to grow. Together, they reached out to the young alien race, not with the overwhelming knowledge of the cosmos, but with the simple, powerful gift of human empathy. They shared their own fears, hopes, and experiences, forming a bond that transcended the barriers of biology and culture. As they connected with the aliens, Sarah and Alexei felt their human identities crystallizing once more. They were no longer in danger of losing themselves in the cosmic consciousness. Instead, they had found a way to be both human and part of something greater. As Philafax's presence returned, his thoughts tinged with something that felt almost like awe. "Remarkable. You have not only survived the cosmic crucible, but have discovered a truth that has eluded many far older and more advanced species." "What truth is that?" Sarah asked, though she felt she already knew the answer. "That true cosmic harmony doesn't come from erasing differences, but from celebrating them," Philafax explained. "Your human perspective, with all its limitations and potential, is precisely what the galactic community needs." Alexei's thoughts swirled with excitement. "Then does this mean—" "Yes," Philafax confirmed. "You have proven humanity's worth. You will be welcomed into the galactic community. But first, you must return to your physical forms and face one final challenge." As the cosmic mindscape began to fade, Sarah and Alexei felt a surge of triumph and anticipation. They had come so far, learned so much. Whatever this final challenge was, they would face it together, with the strength of their humanity and the wisdom of the cosmos behind them. Little did they know, the greatest test of all awaited them back on Earth, one that would determine not just humanity's future, but the fate of the entire galaxy. The quantum nexus. Sarah and Alexei gasped as their consciousness snapped back into their physical bodies. The sterile chamber of the alien ship materialized around them, but something was different. Their senses, heightened by their cosmic journey, detected subtle vibrations in the air, a symphony of quantum fluctuations that had always been there, but that normal human perception couldn't grasp. Exilothax materialized before them, his golden form shimmering with newfound complexity. You have surpassed our expectations, humans, but your final test awaits, one that will determine not just humanity's fate, but the future of the entire galactic community. With a wave of his hand, a shimmering portal opened in the air. Through it, Sarah and Alexei could see Earth, but not as they remembered it. The planet pulsed with ethereal energy, crisscrossed by lines of force that connected it to the vast cosmic web they had experienced in the cosmic crucible. "Behold the quantum nexus," Exilothax intoned. Earth sits at a crucial juncture of space-time, a nexus point that could reshape the very fabric of reality. Your task is to guide your species through its first steps into this greater cosmos, while preventing a catastrophe that could unravel the universe itself. Alexei's scientific mind raced with the implications. A quantum nexus. The theoretical possibilities are staggering. But what's the catastrophe we're meant to prevent? Exilothax's multifaceted eyes seem to darken. Your return will trigger a cascade of events. Earth's governments will detect our presence. Some will react with fear, others with aggression. If handled improperly, it could lead to a quantum decoherence that would ripple across the galaxy, destabilizing the very laws of physics. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. So we have to reveal the truth about the cosmos to humanity, while somehow preventing global panic or conflict. That's a tall order. Indeed, Exilothax agreed. But you will not face this challenge unaided. Your experiences have awakened latent abilities within you, the power to perceive and manipulate quantum probabilities. Use this gift wisely, for it comes with great responsibility. As if on cue, Sarah felt a tingling sensation throughout her body. She raised her hand, watching in awe as shimmering threads of possibility danced between her fingers. Beside her, Alexei was experimenting with his own newfound abilities, his eyes wide with wonder. "Remember," Exilothax cautioned, "your actions will have far-reaching consequences. The future of Earth and the galaxy hangs in the balance. Are you ready to face your final trial?" Sarah and Alexei exchanged a determined look. After everything they'd been through, there was no turning back now. "We're ready," they said in unison. With a nod, Exilothax gestured toward the portal. "Then go, champions of humanity. Shape your destiny." Taking a deep breath, Sarah and Alexei stepped through the shimmering gateway. They emerged on the outskirts of Washington, D.C., their arrival heralded by a flash of quantum energy that lit up senses around the globe. Almost immediately, they sensed the ripples of chaos spreading outward. Military forces were mobilizing, scientists were scrambling to explain the unprecedented energy readings, and social media was exploding with theories and panic. "We need to act fast," Alexei said, his mind already calculating probabilities. "If we can get to the right people, explain what's happening." But Sarah was already moving, her newfound quantum senses guiding her. "This way," she called, leading them toward the heart of the city. "I can feel a nexus point forming. If we can harness it, we might be able to broadcast the truth to everyone simultaneously." As they raced through the streets, they used their quantum abilities to subtle effect, nudging probability to clear their path, calming the minds of panicked civilians with pulses of harmonic energy. But they could feel opposition forming as well. Shadowy figures, their quantum signatures twisted and aberrant, moved to intercept them. "The xenophobes," Alexei growled, recognizing the group from glimpses he'd seen in the cosmic crucible. A secret society dedicated to keeping humanity isolated from the galaxy. They'll stop at nothing to prevent first contact. A pitched battle erupted in the streets of D.C., but it was unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Sarah and Alexei danced through cascades of probability, turning their opponents' attacks back on themselves. They wielded the fundamental forces of the universe as extensions of their will, all while racing toward the quantum nexus that was rapidly forming over the National Mall. As they approached the nexus, a massive view screen flickered to life above them. The face of General Thaddeus Hammer, leader of the xenophobes, glared down at the city. "Citizens of Earth," his voice boomed, "we are under attack by alien forces seeking to subjugate humanity. But fear not. We have weapons that will drive these invaders back to the stars." Sarah's blood ran cold as she sensed the quantum disturbance building. "He's going to activate a dimensional ripper," she realized. "If that goes off, it'll tear a hole in space-time," Alexei finished, his face pale. "We have to stop him." They redoubled their efforts, fighting their way through waves of xenophobe agents. The very air crackled with quantum energy as they neared the Washington Monument, now the focal point of the building nexus. In a desperate gambit, Sarah reached out with her mind, connecting to the quantum web that linked all of humanity. In that moment, she broadcast everything: their abduction, the trials they faced, the wonders of the cosmos, and the dire threat now facing not just Earth, but all of reality. The effect was instantaneous. Millions of minds reeled from the influx of cosmic truth. But as the initial shock faded, something beautiful happened. A wave of hope, wonder, and determination swept across the global consciousness. Humanity, presented with irrefutable proof of a larger cosmos, chose to embrace it rather than cower in fear. The xenophobes' support crumbled. General Hammer, his plan in tatters, made a last-ditch effort to activate the dimensional ripper. But Sarah and Alexei, their powers amplified by the quantum nexus and the collective will of humanity, reached out as one. They didn't destroy the device. Instead, they reshaped it, turning its reality-warping potential toward a grander purpose. In a blinding flash of quantum energy, a bridge formed, a stable wormhole connecting Earth directly to the heart of the galactic community. As the light faded, Sarah and Alexei found themselves standing before a stunned crowd. But they were no longer alone. Exlathax and representatives from a dozen alien races stood with them, ready to welcome humanity into a new age of cosmic cooperation. Alexei turned to Sarah, a grin spreading across his face. "Well, I'd say that's one way to make first contact." Sarah laughed, the sound filled with joy and relief. "I think we just changed the course of human history." As the crowd's shock turned to cheers and the first tentative steps of human-alien diplomacy began, Sarah and Alexei knew their journey was far from over. They had unlocked humanity's cosmic potential, but the real adventure, shepherding their species into a brave new universe, was just beginning. The quantum nexus hummed with possibility, a gateway to endless discovery. Humanity had taken its first, momentous step into a larger world, ready to claim its place among the stars.